All right, well, you guys know the rules. Robots do the painting, you do the guessing. I drop the clues. So let's play. Once again, this first one's going to be the top 20 rock pop groups of the 1960s. We'll start out a little tougher, but who knows? We'll see. All right, number 20. These guys were made for TV band before they became chart-topping pop stars. Yeah, glad you're here for sure. They were often dismissed as a Beatle knockoff, but their fan base didn't seem to care. Who are these guys? I watched them every Saturday morning? Their songs were penned by hitmakers like Neil Diamond and Carole King, so they had some good songwriters. Their zany antics defined 60s TV comedy as much as their music defined bubblegum rock, pop. Yeah, Promise, of course. Of course. You are correct. I'm a Believer became one of the biggest hits of the entire decade. I'm a Believer. Yeah, what were their names? What were all their names? Peter, Mickey, Davey. Who's the other guy? Mike? The Porpoise song. Okay. They had to fight for creative control, and they won, turning their TV gimmick into a legit pop stardom. The Monkees. The Monkees. Very good. All right. You know how the game is played? You know how the game is played. Here we go. Number 19. So it might be a little harder, although the band's well known. Their sound was pure sunshine, even if the world outside wasn't. They helped pioneer folk rock with warm, playful twists. Their lead singer once tried to join the Mamas and the Papas, but he got his own band instead. So, the lead guy tried to join the Mamas and Papas, but he got his own band instead. It looks so young. All these guys look so young. Summer in the City showed they had gritty urban side too. Summer in the City, remember that song? Their debut single asked, "Do you believe in magic?" So, do you believe in magic? And Summer in the City. Who remembers who this is? Popular songs. There they are. Young. This is The Loving Spoonful. The Loving Spoonful. There you go. Their name comes from a Mississippi John Hurt lyric, not a kitchen utensil. Oh, okay. Who knew? Not me. But Loving Spoonful. Big songs. All right, we're down to number 18. We're doing top bands of the 60s. Way back. Number 18. They loved Bach as much as they loved rock. Okay. Their harmonies were haunting and their lyrics dreamy. They weren't big on stage presence, but their studio work was masterful. Okay. I would never get this one, I don't think. I mean, I've certainly heard of the band, but I would never get this. Odyssey and Oracle became a cult classic after they broke up. And then I think the biggest song may have been Time of the Season. You remember that? Time of the Season? It's still a staple of moody 60s nostalgia. Time of the Season was one of the hits that definitely defined the 60s. But who was that made that song? Time of the Season. Anybody know? It's a little more obscure, but interestingly enough, these guys are called the Zombies. The Zombies. They actually misspelled Odyssey on their most famous album, and they just rolled with that. The Zombies. Yeah. There you go. All right, I think you'll know these guys. Their guitarists were like Pokemon evolutions of British rock. Clapton, Beck, and Page. They experimented with distortion, feedback, and Eastern scales before it was cool. They were blues purists until they weren't. Yes, Ducker's in the house. How's it going, man? Glad you're here for the 1960s bands. They once turned a nursery rhyme into a rave-up rocker. Their alumni went on to form Cream and Led Zeppelin. Yeah, hey, what's going on? What's going on? I don't know if it's the best picture of them, but they were younger. You are correct. It is the Yardbirds. The Yardbirds. Clapton, Beck, and Page. Their legacy is less about their hits and more about who they gave to rock history. There you go. Everybody got their start with the Yardbirds. Coming in at number 17 on our top 20 list. All right, that takes us down to number 16. Now, this is an interesting group who I was not familiar with them as a band, I don't think, but I definitely heard of them, and I know their music. Now, they started as a surf band, but ditched the beach for a more Baroque pop sound. They weren't afraid of satire or absurdity in their lyrics. Eleanor was written to annoy the record label, but it became a hit. They sang one of the most singable choruses in pop history. Happy Together became their eternal funny signature. Happy together, happy together. Anybody remember that? Who is that? Not that you can tell by the way I sing it. Yeah, you guys both know. Very good. Excellent. It is indeed the Turtles. They weren't around too long. They were only around from 1965 to 1970. And the Turtles later sued De La Soul and won over a sample of a song. Somebody was copying their big hit. There you go, the Turtles. All right. Now, I actually remember this being one of my favorites in that time period. And I was very young. I don't know, maybe 10 to 12 years old, something like that. 10 years old? 12 years old, maybe. They were more squeaky clean than the Beatles, and America loved them for it. Their frontman had the face of a cherub and the accent of Manchester. Yeah, I don't know a Manchester accent. I'm going to need to learn that. Their goofy charm made them TV darlings in the USA. Who's this? They had a hit about someone's lovely daughter and her mother. Mrs. Brown, you've got a lovely daughter. Remember that song? Yes, correct, Doctor. I remember the album, playing the album over and over. With my mom's album. I remember playing it over and over. Was never meant to be a single. It just got too popular. Peter Noon was only 15 when he joined the band and became a British invasion heartthrob at the age of 15. There you go. Herman's Hermits. You are correct. There they are. They're number 15 on our list. Now, this band had a cool name. Excuse me. They dressed like 1776, but rocked like 1966. Their TV performances were chaotic, energetic, and full of choreographed kicks. These guys were the big kickers. Their keyboardist shared a name with an American patriot. There's the key clue. Their keyboardist shared a name with an American patriot. Kicks was an anti-drug song before it was fashionable. They blended garage rock with revolutionary flair. Literally. Yes. Yes, Doctor. Yeah, there they are. In the revolutionary gear. Paul Revere and the Raiders is correct. You know, they started all the way back in 1958. And they went all the way through 1976. So they were around. They were the first rock band regularly featured on network TV with full revolutionary uniforms to boot. Well, that's why they put them on TV, right? Ed Sullivan or whoever. I don't know. Were they ever on like Johnny Carson or something? I don't know. There you go. Paul Revere and the Raiders. Yeah, they were one of the 60s bands. So were these next guys. And my mom had this album as well. So there you go. Now, these guys were the Beatles' first serious chart rivals in the US. They had a driving, sax-heavy sound. And they had clean-cut looks. Something called Glad All Over kicked down the door for the British Invasion #2. And they did play the Ed Sullivan Show more than 15 times. So these guys were acceptable on Ed Sullivan. Who remembers who this is? They were the clean-cut version, right, of the Beatles. They turned foot stomping into a musical weapon. So yeah, they had their suit on and the guitar, and they would stomp the foot, right? You remember who this is? Clean cut. Their drummer was also their manager, producer, and their namesake. Talk about multitasking. So they were named after their drummer, their group name. This is the Dave Clark 5. Oh, good guess. Buckingham's. No. Dave Clark 5. Remember that, though? There you go. Dave Clark 5. All right. We're down to number 12. Moving on. We're not going to fret none. Next up. These guys were known for sweet, tight harmonies long before boy bands made it a thing. These were the first boy bands, sounds like. Their name was inspired by Buddy Holly, but their sound was uniquely British. Well, that's the key clue. Their name was inspired by Buddy Holly, but their sound was uniquely British. Graham Nash got his start with this band before going to CNS fame. Something called Bus Stop proved pop culture could be poetic and romantic. They stayed active for decades. Quiet Legends of Rock. Yeah, Doctor. You know who this is. Their name was inspired by Buddy Holly. That's a good clue. You are correct. This is the Hollies. Like they said, they stayed active for decades. That's cool. Their vocal stock was so precise, it could be mistaken for a barbershop quartet wrapped in Carnaby Street. So they had tight harmonies. I'm not placing their music, but I'm gonna look it up. I'm gonna look it up after. The Hollies. Check it in at number 12. So even if you didn't know these bands for sure, the names are all familiar. You know, we've heard them. Number 11. Now these guys brought raw blues grit to the clean world of the pop charts. Raw blues grit. Their singer's voice could melt steel, or at least tear up a microphone. Cool. They covered Lead Belly and made it a #1 hit. I don't know if you remember that from our blues segment on Blues Masters. Lead Belly. We Gotta Get Out of This Place became a Vietnam anthem. You remember that song? We Gotta Get Out of This Place? I'm not sure I could sing it. And then The House of the Rising Sun is their haunting legacy. Not Creedence. Not Creedence. There you go, Doctor. There you go, Doctor. We Gotta Get Out of This Place and The House of the Rising Sun. That's right, the Animals. The Animals. Eric Burden never smiled on stage. I didn't realize that. And fans love that. The Animals. Where they are. Look like animals. It's funny how so many of the bands had animal names, right? This next one's no exception. Except for a little different. Number 10. I don't know. That clue probably throws you off. That's my job. They started out as the Young Rascals, but quickly outgrew the young part. Well, that's an awfully good clue. They brought soul into the rock scene without losing their pop charm. Their Hammond organ sound was thick enough to spread on toast. That's a clue. Hammond organ sound was thick enough to spread on toast. Groovin' made Sunday afternoons into a vibe. Good Lovin' was their breakout, but far from their only hit. Yeah. Go. Look at those guys. They look like their name. Groovin' and Good Lovin'. Yeah. I certainly remember that. I can't. Gosh, I should have looked up the songs real quick so I could sing them for you guys. That would have helped, right? No. Despite their name, they were surprisingly wholesome. At least musically. Okay, the Rascals. Not the little rascals. These are the real rascals. Yeah. Hammond. It was. Oh, that organ. Big in the Doors, too, right? Well, lots of groups. All right, number 9. Now, these guys didn't just play guitars, they weaponized them. They were banned from touring the U.S. for years by the U.S. They made suburban mundanity into lyric gold. Suburban mundanity into lyric gold. Lola danced the line of taboo and radio friendliness. Lola. I can't remember the rest of it. Lola. You Really Got Me gave distortion its first big break. There you go, Doctor. There you go. You really got me, babe. You really got me. That's almost passable. You are correct. It is the Kinks. The Kinks. They were banned from touring in the US for years. They influenced punk, Brit pop, and every band that ever rhymed misery and history. I should rhyme misery and history on my check. The Kinks, there they are. Her name was Lola. Oh no, that's a different one. That's Barry Manilow. That's funny. That's funny. I had Barry Manilow in my head. These guys made Bob Dylan go electric, sort of. Their 12-string guitar jangle became the sound of a generation. They turned folk into rock and rock into country. How about that? Very cool. Still got Barry Manilow in my head. They had a band lineup more rotating than a merry-go-round. Yeah, these guys kept changing people. Mr. Tambourine Man launched them into orbit. Well, so that's a good answer, but it's not quite correct. So some of these guys became Buffalo Springfield, right? But they also rotated through this band. These guys, this was all that, Laurel Canyon in LA, in Hollywood. They all lived up in the canyon. This is the Byrds. The Byrds, does that sound right? The Byrds. They basically invented folk rock, then abandoned it like a hippie moving to a commune. And yeah, because everybody played with them. But yeah, Stephen and what's his name went on to do Buffalo Springfield. I don't like his politics anymore. Neil. Oh, the picture was Buffalo Springfield? Could be. Could have got it confused. But they did play with the Byrds. So that's probably why. That's probably why. Number 7. They first performed under the name Tom and Jerry. I didn't know that. Their music often sounded like poetry with a beat. Yeah, Neil Young. They broke up more times than most couples. Sound of Silence was a quiet anthem that became deafeningly big. There you go. Bridge Over Troubled Water turned gospel into gold. Of course, Doctor. I think they got the picture right on this. When those guys moved from group to group, you could see how they played in multiple bands. You could see how the Google would get the pictures confused. No doubt. They were soft-spoken giants until arguments started. All right, let's move on. This is a big group. Oh, speaking of groups where people moved around a lot, They were the original supergroup before it was cliche. Their live jams could last longer than some careers. That's cool. Eric Clapton's guitar work here became legendary. Of course. Doctor. Sunshine of Your Love had one of the most iconic riffs ever. Yes, it did. Sunshine of Your Love. Yeah. I don't know if I got that right. They brought blues to psychedelic frontier. Yeah, they got quite the outfits on there. They lasted barely 2 years, but their influence is still echoing through amplifier. There you go. Cream. 1966 to 1968. They were not around long for a supergroup. Those are the outfits. Very colorful robot painting. All right, we're down to number 5. Number 5. This one will surprise you. This one. See if you can figure out who this is. Maybe I should give you no clue. Nope. They made surfing sound like the American dream, even for people in Kansas. I'm not sure I know what that means. Their vocal harmonies were tighter than a wetsuit. Brian Wilson was a genius, and maybe a little too genius for his own good. The robot's got some good clues tonight. Pet sounds confused the public, but inspired the Beatles. Correct. Robots. Do you recognize them? They went through, talking about a band that went through some different looks. All the same guys. They just looked like different people. Good Vibrations was their sonic masterpiece. Pieced together like a puzzle. Good Vibrations. Talk about a song. Song for the ages. Definitely. They started with Beaches, but ended up rewriting the rules of pop composition. So what we need is like Siri to be set up as an AI where any song that we talk about on the show could pop up with a little riff, like a 15-second clip from that song. Wouldn't that be fun? I gotta work on that. Seems like it should be possible. We'd like to hear the songs. Number 4. We're down. We're getting down on the list. Their singer thought he was a poet or a prophet or both. Their organ player gave them a sound nobody else had. Oh, I accidentally activated Siri by asking for her. That was bad. She's talking to me now. Their lyrics were dark, mystical, and often banned. Yeah, of course. Doctor. Riders on the Storm made thunderstorms sound philosophical. Light by Fire was banned and then embraced. Yes, of course. This is The Doors, and that is Jim on the bottom there, I think. As the painting finishes, I think it looks more like Jim. Jim Morrison wanted to break on through to the other side. Break on through. And he definitely left the door wide open. The robot's full of puns and jokes tonight on their clues. Very good. Do an excellent job. The Doors, checking in number 4. There they are. Yeah, it's Jim. Was it? Well, I can see that. I mean, I love Frank Sinatra and I love the Doors. So there you go. You know. All right, number three. Number three. This is a very young picture of these boys. They were the dirty contrast to the Beatles' clean image. Their blues influences were raw and unapologetic. Somebody's strut could be studied in physics class. I can't get no was a whole generation's battle cry. They still tour. Somehow, they still tour. I don't know if you saw, there was like a little, Instagram or TikTok clip of Mick dancing the other day. I don't know how old he is, but he was dancing. Yes, Rhombus. Yes, Doctor. We are talking about the Rolling Stones here. That is a young picture, is it not? They didn't just survive rock and roll, they became rock and roll. There you go. A Rolling Stone gathers no moss. No moss. No moss. That's something different. That's something different. All right, number two. Number two. They broke guitars like other bands broke records. The drummer was basically a fireworks display in human form. Like that. Tommy made rock opera a thing, whether we wanted it or not. There's the answer. My generation invented teenage angst in musical form. Stewart's in the house. Welcome back. Their concerts were loud enough to register on the Richter scale. Yes, indeed. Their equipment budget was probably larger than their catering budget. Well, I hope so. Quite a picture of them. Again, very young, very young. You are correct. It is the Who. Who? Oh, it's the Who. All right, the gang's all here. We've got plenty more music to go. So hang in there. As the Who checks in at number 2 on our top 20 bands of the 1960s. So we all know who number 1 is. I think they changed everything. And then they changed again. They did change. They conquered America, then the world with mop tops and melodies. Each album was a new reinvention, from pop to psychedelic to protest. Hey Jude, Let It Be, A Day in the Life, pick a classic, any classic. Their breakup was mourned like a royal divorce. The Bloody Beatles. Yes, there we missed you for a couple shows, 3 shows. We had a lot of fun, but we did miss you. And Rhombus too. Rhombus is back tonight. Glad you guys are here tonight. Were you guys on vacation together? They weren't just a band. They were a global event with a killer soundtrack. There you go. The robots are on point with clues tonight. Just a heads up. There they are. Once again, a very young picture. Very young picture. Cool. Very cool. Okay, well, obviously you guys did awesome at that category. That was too easy for you.